Welcome to episode 10 of the Small Business Big Presence Show. We are your hosts, Madison Black
and Roy Manitoga.
And today we're going to be talking about how we can get you out of notification hell, save your sanity, and just stop being a slave to your Facebook page. And we're going to do that in 3 ways.
3 ways. So today we're going to cover the 3 ways. The first of which is batching. What is that? How to do it, and basically why to do it as well, I guess. Secondly, we're going to cover off notifications, managing the source, where they come from, but also managing when you receive them, as well as messenger notifications in your inbox. And then finally, we're going to discuss with Maddi, the true boundaries queen.
Boundaries.
Boundaries.
We absolutely are. So to start off with, we're going to talk about batching. And as you said, let's talk about what batching is, because it's not unique, firstly, to social media.
Yeah.
In fact, I was thinking about this just yesterday as we were batching meals. I was like, oh, we batch a lot in our life, actually.
Yeah, we're just moving batches and...
That's it. So it really is just the concept of, what would you say, like kind of focusing your time, focusing your energies on a singular task at one time, rather than having this multi-tasker attitude, which I just actually don't think is real. No one is really that good of a multitasker, and in fact batching really helps you to get focused, get dialed into a task that you are performing without being distracted by all the other things that your mind might be trying to trick you into thinking about.
Exactly, and it came to the forefront of, I think, especially the entrepreneurial world, the business world, from Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Workweek, where he was using that tool of batching to get things done a lot more efficiently. Basically, because you're only doing that one activity for so long, your mind is sunk into it, you're in the zone, so to speak, so you're just cranking it out. Whereas if you're multitasking, you have to get back into that zone each and every time. And that reboot time depends on the task. I've heard, like, for even simple things, it can be realistically like 45 minutes before you actually, I think it might have been writing. I think it might have been one of Tim Ferriss's examples was writing, getting back into writing a blog post, writing your book, 45 minutes to get back from an interruption. So that's what batching really eliminates, and keeping that sustained focus helps you zero in and be more efficient.
Well, and I know he talks a lot as well about email as being something that he batched, which was a pretty revolutionary concept, especially for people who more work in the corporate world, who kind of are expected in a lot of ways to have their email turned on all the time and to be responsive. But in fact, it was much better for him to be limiting his email response times throughout the week. I think he dropped it down to once a week that he responded to his emails. And obviously there's ways you can manage expectations around that. But email is not dissimilar in this instance from social media, where especially for a lot of us who have online businesses or businesses that utilize an online presence, we sometimes can feel like we're a bit of a slave to our Facebook page, and that we have to be really responsive either to the messages that are coming through or to comments that are happening on our posts. And the truth is, you can absolutely batch all of those efforts. And in fact, we suggest that you do, because it will mean that you are able to actually love being on social media for your business, rather than having it be another one of those things that's like, oh gosh, it's just taking up so much of my time. Yeah,
there's being an energy drain and a suck that, particularly for social media, and particularly managing your notifications on your own profile, is so often you can get stuck into the Facebook newsfeed and hours go by. Absolutely.
And so we really suggest that there are actually monthly, weekly and daily specific tasks to do with your Facebook page that you should batch. So for instance, when it comes to scheduling your posts, rather than having this haphazard daily posting schedule where you kind of have to come up with a post, or what am I going to post about today, the truth is you're going to be so much more effective, and you're actually going to produce higher quality posts by batching your efforts and producing all of your posts for an entire month in one sitting, and then actually scheduling them using the Facebook scheduling tool. Not the third-party ones, as we've spoken about in previous episodes, but using those tools that are at your disposal to streamline your efforts. So it's really just a couple of hours once a month that you sit down and do that kind of a task.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you could break it down further, create the posts. Like, often with some of our clients, I'll go through, fill out the month schedule with ideas, and then I'll go fill out one particular, like every Monday is say, I don't know, Mexican Monday for a recipe blog or something, and you just fill all that, and then each time you just batch only those creation.
So it's even batching within batching, which is awesome. And in fact, we suggest that you do the same thing when you are creating your posts, is to have some themes where, yes, you maybe post specific things on certain days. For instance, our show comes out on a Tuesday. So when we're working on batching our show, we batch the recording of our show, we batch the writing of our show, we batch every single element of it so that we can get into that zone and we're not distracted. Because if we were going through the process of writing, recording, uploading, editing, all of like a show per episode, it would just drive us nuts. We would never be able to get through having a consistent show across the year. So it's really important to batch your efforts. As we spoke about too, there are also weekly and daily tasks. The daily ones in particular, and I say daily with the caveat that I'm talking during business days. So we don't do any Facebook, not business related Facebook. We do social related Facebook activity on the weekends, but we otherwise don't do any business activity on the weekends. So all of our comment responding, engagement looping that happens, anything that we're responding to in terms of our inbox on our page, all happens on a daily basis, business days, Monday to Friday. And we will put aside, say, 15 minutes, half an hour every morning. I know I'm in charge of that. So I sit down every morning and I do my 15 to 30 minutes and I respond to everything I can, and then I actually close my Facebook window, because otherwise I am one of the worst for it, I can get stuck in the Facebook black hole of the newsfeed and constantly following things.
For sure.
So that's batching in a nutshell. Now, the next thing we wanted to talk about is notifications, because I actually think notifications are what might give people the most amount of anxiety.
Yeah. Definitely.
Well, I think you get to one of two responses. You either get a serious anxious response when you see how many notifications you have to deal with, be it on your page or on your personal profile.
Yeah.
Or it's the kind of thing where there's so many to deal with, you don't know where to start, and so you'll kind of just go, eject. And then you're actually going to be harming your Facebook page in particular, because you do want to remain responsive. So let's talk firstly about our Facebook page and how to handle notifications. And just for clarity, we are talking about two different areas on your page. So there's notifications where people are commenting on or reacting to or sharing posts. And then there's also your inbox, which is being run through the Messenger platform. So Rory, in terms of notifications, what are your suggestions as to how we manage those better?
Yeah, so basically it's using some of the functionality that is already in those notifications, but may not have been brought to your attention, or like it certainly took me a long time to figure out, like, you can operate your notifications basically the same as you operate your email inbox. So you can mark as read the ones that you've taken care of. So you go through, you see your notifications, as you click on them, they'll automatically become read. But you can also just review them before you click on them and say, okay, these particular 4 are not relevant to me, they're likes or that sort of thing that you don't need to necessarily respond, though.
Or you maybe already have responded to.
Yeah, exactly. Throughout the day, and you just haven't cleared the notifications. But you can also clear all of them and make sure they're all mark all as read as well.
You absolutely can. And in fact, there are tick boxes next to your notifications where you can select to do mass mark as read actions. And to your point, so you're talking about so something that you need to be aware of is that if you have a specific post that has received new reactions and new comments and maybe new shares, it'll actually come up as 3 separate notifications, which is why you might click in to a post, do everything that's necessary, which would be inviting people who've liked the post to like your page, responding to comments and doing some engagement looping, and then responding to shares that have happened, so actually commenting on other people who've shared the post. If you do all of that in one batch, you're still going to be left with those other 2 notifications that you hadn't clicked into, but you know that you've actually done everything you need to do on that post. And so that's an instance where you would select those 2 notifications, mark as read, and then you know that post is done and dusted to that point in time.
Yeah, exactly.
The other thing to think about too is that in the inbox. So as we spoke about, you've got your posts, but the other place where you'll get notifications is actually in your inbox of your Facebook page. Now these messages won't actually show up in your normal messenger on your personal profile. These only show up on your page. So it is something that you do need to check, especially if you're using the Facebook desktop dashboard. You can have the Facebook Pages app downloaded on your mobile phone and turn notifications on. But again, we're trying to eliminate the constant red, the red dot with the number of how many notifications you have to deal with. We don't have any notifications turned on our mobile phones for our Facebook page because of that effort that I do daily where I jump on and I check everything. So my suggestion is actually absolutely have the Facebook Pages app, but turn notifications off on your phone and batch your efforts as we spoke about. Now in terms of the inbox, you can do a couple of things similarly to your notifications where you can mark again messages as read. But something that we're going to be covering off in a future episode is that you still want to remain super responsive to your messages. So it's important that every message has a response delivered to that person who sent it. And you want to be doing that as soon as possible, and there are tips and tricks that you can use in terms of using a response assistant. That is a automatic feature available in your settings of your page to help you keep your response rate high. But even with that setup, you do want to be coming back and actually sending a response. So in this instance, marking something as read maybe isn't something you will want to do. You actually want to be marking something as done or as requiring follow-up, which is another option in your inbox.
Yeah, exactly. And to Facebook's credit, they've given us a lot of tools around this to manage your page effectively. And one of the big ones is assigning it to a team member. So for instance, for example, with our business, Small Business Digital Academy, Madison could go through and... feels weird to go
It does.
Madison could go through and see, okay, someone's asked a question more about web design, development, that side of things, which is more my expertise. She can go in, because I'm a team member and admin of the page, she can go assign to Rory and then continue on with her efforts and the other messages, and then I'll receive the notification to follow that message up.
Absolutely. And the other thing I would suggest too is that even in the instance that I've perhaps assigned it to follow up by another team member or that I've assigned it to follow up at a later date for myself, I'm a big believer in managing the expectations of your audience. So even if it's something where you maybe need to go and do some research, or you need to talk to someone else, or you need to wait for the response of another team member, it's always worthwhile still sending a message to manage that person's manage that person's expectations, because if they're not going to hear from you for a while and it's already maybe been that they messaged you on the weekend and you're not getting this message till Monday, it is always going to be helpful and actually maintain a much better customer relationship by saying to them, we've heard you, we've registered your question, we've passed it on to the relevant person, you should hear within this amount of time.
Yeah.
Just make them feel like the question just hasn't been left in the ether. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. That's another great tool that Facebook's implemented.
Absolutely. The other thing that you can use the follow-up feature for as well is if you have asked them a question, or perhaps you've sent them a proposal, perhaps they've been talking about services or something like that. If you maybe haven't heard from them in a couple of days, you can pop them into the follow-up folder of your inbox so that in a couple of days you can be reviewing that follow-up folder and saying, I haven't heard back from that person. I might just send them a reminder. Hey, just curious to know how you found X, Y, or Z, whatever it is that you are asking them about, because you are also just one of potentially many messages in your customers' inboxes. So remember that follow-up is super important and you don't want to be missing out on sales opportunities or even just servicing your customer opportunities by not having follow-up procedures in place. So build the rules that suit your business and then actually implement them across your team as to how you're going to use that follow-up feature.
Yeah, exactly.
And then let's talk about, so that's kind of everything to do with your page notifications.
But I think a lot of certainly for me, who doesn't manage the page as much, the notifications from my newsfeed and from my profile is what really I don't think it stresses me. Not much stresses me really. But but yeah, it does draw your eye, and then takes your focus away from other things when you say, okay, there's another notification coming in, another, and so let's have a little jam session on how to fix that.
Absolutely, and it is something, again, for someone who teaches Facebook and who really loves the platform from a business perspective and really from even a personal perspective, I am very specific as to how I use it, and I'm very curated in my newsfeed in particular. And let's remember that the newsfeed is where Facebook's kind of focusing the majority of its energy, especially when it comes to the algorithm. That's what they're trying to help people have a better experience in, because it's the first thing that most people see when they go to facebook.com.
Yeah.
So there are several ways that you can manage your newsfeed, and the biggest thing that I have been doing is unfollowing pages or groups or even people who don't really deliver the kind of content that wants to help keep me on the platform, or that doesn't keep me informed or entertained, or any of those things that the newsfeed values kind of value.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that's really easy to do in terms of a person or a page. If you look at any individual post, you'll see that there's 3 dots in the right-hand corner of that post. You can simply click on that and you'll be given an option to unfollow that page or person. To be clear, unfollowing someone doesn't mean that you're unfriending them, and unfollowing a page doesn't mean that you no longer like the page. So it's a great way to keep them in your Facebook world, but without having to see their updates all the time, because perhaps they're not really servicing what you want out of Facebook at the time.
Yeah, exactly. And Facebook's just introduced sort of an extra feature on that is the snooze function, where instead of straight unfollowing, you might come across the instance where maybe it's a friend, maybe it's a page that's just going through, say, a launch, or they're going through some sort of difficulty, and you just don't want to hear that noise. You can snooze them for 30 days, and then will it prompt you to unfollow them, or will it?
Well, to be fair, I've only unsnoozed my first person recently, or first page. And the reason for that is normally when I unfollow someone, I'm pretty clear that
it's not for you.
It's not for me. Whereas for the first time ever, I was like, I'm going to just test. I think it was a group. And I was like, I'm just going to test if not having this in my newsfeed makes me feel like I missed them or anything like that. So I snoozed them for 30 days.
Yeah. And
my assumption is that it's just going to pop back up into my newsfeed. But I could get a notification. I'm not sure. We'll have to just wait and see.
Yeah.
But I think it is a great function, especially like if you are someone who really wants your newsfeed to be, an important, highly curated place that really is delivering you value. Snoozing can be a great way to kind of test and see if someone you may be a bit on the fence about is not really, delivering value, or that you're missing.
Yeah.
The other thing we should mention too is that in terms of groups, the way you manage group notifications is a little bit different to a page or a profile. So while you can choose to unfollow in your newsfeed the way that I've described, there are actually if you go, you often have to go into a group to get more specific as to what kind of notifications. And this is probably more to do with notifications than it is to do with the newsfeed. But you can be really clear as to what kind of notifications you want to receive from a group, and there are 4 options. So we can see all posts, we can see highlights, which is just the posts that have been most popular and kind of have triggered to Facebook, this might be relevant to the people who've selected highlights. There's also posts from friends only, and then there's nothing. So manage your notifications from your groups as you see fit. Again, you don't have to have any notifications turned on, and you can still be in the group and just choose to navigate there yourself rather than being notified. But I know that's something that's super important to me, is kind of having only the notifications on that I want. Yeah,
exactly. And so the final thing you can do with your newsfeed is the, again, mark as read feature.
Notifications, not newsfeed.
Notifications. But let's say the notifications from your newsfeed.
True.
But yeah, so you can, as the same thing with your page, it comes into your profile notifications.
Absolutely.
And so you can mark all as read, you can mark some as read as you click through them, or you can mark the ones that you don't need to check in as read as well, which is something that I was taught probably about a year ago now, and it was a real game changer.
Yeah, and the thing that I'd like to just explain is that it's not as clear as on a page how to mark them as read, but if you're only using your notifications toggle at the top of the page and not going into the notifications area, there's a little dot at the right. If you hover over a notification, you'll see there's a little dot that's either filled in or not filled in. Filled in means that you haven't read it yet, and if you click that dot and unfill it, it will say that it's read. So again, this is something I've started to use more and more, so that because my notifications are now really curated, I'm only getting the notifications that I want to action. It means that I can mark them as read, and it's kind of like a checklist for me to go, yep, I've dealt with that, I've responded to that, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So make sure that your notifications and your newsfeed are curated to what you actually want to see on Facebook, so that when you are spending time there, it's time that you feel is well spent.
Exactly. So that brings us to our third section, and a section that I would like to introduce is Maddi's brutal boundary talk.
I do take slight issue with the word brutal.
Yeah, slight. I'll take it.
So, yes, I am definitely a boundaries queen. I mind you, I'm always working on my own boundaries as well, so, nowhere near perfect, but...
Oh, it means it's in your focus. It doesn't have to be exerting on us commoners, but...
Rude. So, talking about boundaries. So, obviously, you can have all of these plans in place. You can be batching your daily efforts, you can be managing your notifications in your inbox and all of this kind of thing, but you also need to have some personal discipline around how you're actually going to manage Facebook for yourself as a person and as a business. And so I really want to encourage everyone to set a daily time and even put it in your calendar. Like, go as far as to have a notification that allows you only that 15 or 30 minutes to actually go in and do your Facebook tasks, and stick to it. Like, if you have to put a timer on your phone that forces you to, well, it's not going to force you, you're still going to have some self-restraint, but forces you to close that tab of Facebook and have it turned off, do it, because it really is going to streamline your day. And especially if you're a location independent service-based business, this is the kind of thing where we can, if we're sitting on our laptops all day, it is so easy to lose minutes and hours to Facebook, and it's just unproductive time. So really, I encourage everyone to have a daily Facebook check-in timer or something set that helps them get out of Facebook jail in a little way.
Yeah, exactly.
And the other thing I would suggest is to actually have a very specific list of things that you're going to do on Facebook when you have that 15 to 30 minutes that you're going to spend there. Have a checklist either written out. We also have a checklist that we're going to talk about in Make It Real that you can download, and that's going to help you really streamline, so you can go in, do your tick off, and then go, okay, I've finished, shut down Facebook.
Exactly.
So that's it. That's our 3 steps. Would you want to do a recap?
Yeah, so we'll wrap it up. The 3 steps today were batching, doing one activity in a block of time and only that activity. The second one was managing your notifications across your page's inbox, and then your personal profile and newsfeed. And then finally, we had our lovely section from the Boundaries Queen about holding your boundaries and keeping discipline to a specific time that you check in on Facebook and do your checklist items.
And now it's time to make it real, because let's be honest, if you're just listening to this episode and not actually taking action in your business, then you're not going to really be getting the benefits of the tips and tricks that we're suggesting for you. And ultimately, we want small businesses to utilize Facebook so much more and in a way that serves them. So we really hope that you do take action. And this week, as we said, we're going to be giving you our interaction daily checklist that's going to help you streamline that daily show up that you do on Facebook to make sure that you're really utilizing your time really specifically and well for your business and not wasting any time scrolling on the newsfeed. You can go and download that at bigpresentshow.com/interact.
And that's all for episode 10 of the Small Business Big Presence Show.
Be sure to tune in next week when we're going to be breaking down the 3 things your business absolutely needs before you even consider running Facebook ads.
Until then, keep creating big impact in your small business with your big presence.
Thanks so much for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
Remember, 62% of consumers use Facebook to help inform their buying decisions. Don't let your Facebook page stop one of your customers from investing in your small business. Get the lowdown on the 4-step system we teach our students to help transform their pages and turn presence into profit. And to be the first notified when we drop a new episode, be sure to subscribe to the show. Head on over to bigpresenceshow.com/subscribe to get started.